The Stormy Cohen scandal. The prosecution by Bragg is starting very soon with jury selection brought against Trump in the state of New York. We know Judge Juan Merchan is presiding, and we're here on part 2 of our trial prep to make sure we understand what is happening with these witnesses. Who are these people? How did we get here? And the two big witnesses. Remember, this is the so-called hush money case involving Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen. So we've got today a deep dive. We're going through these two witnesses as well as other witnesses in the Bragg prosecution. Others like Hicks, Trump's former press secretary, Madeleine Westerhout. We've got Karen McDougal, David Pecker, others, maybe even Michael Avenatti will be called as a witness. And so what is the background on these people? Who are they? What's the story behind them? How did we get here? Because remember, this goes all the way back to 2016 and 17. Trump was winning, became the president, and there were stories allegedly that were sold that were cleaning up loose ends. And the main crux of these charges are about payments between Donald Trump to Michael Cohen, and then from Michael Cohen's fake LLCs, he was paying out to Stormy Daniels. But that was just kind of one part of the whole inquiry. There was another story where there was another woman whose name was Karen McDougal, who we're going to talk about, and she had another claim against Donald Trump, but that didn't go through Michael Cohen, and it kind of did, allegedly, but it didn't involve only Michael Cohen. It went through another guy called David Pecker. So David Pecker is the former CEO, he's this guy, of a company called AMI. And AMI, you may remember AMI, they had a bunch of magazines. One of them was called The National Enquirer. And so you would go to grocery stores, newspaper stands, and see these tabloids around where they would say, oh my gosh, Donald Trump was seen with so-and-so or whatever. And it would be celebrity gossip. So he owned one of those companies, and a big one is called National Enquirer. So they would get a bunch of stories called America Media Incorporated. And so apparently, story goes, he met with somebody, he met with Cohen and Donald Trump, and because he had these tabloids, people would come to him and shop stories. So they would say to him, hey, I've got this scandalous story about Donald Trump. Would you like to know it? And then he buys those stories. So he was the CEO of AMI up until 2020, then he's out of there. He started a catch and kill program. Okay, so they would be out there kind of shopping for stories, and then those stories would pop up, and then they would pay to make them go away. Now, Michael Cohen is the person who says that they work together. Remember, they also raided Michael Cohen, got a warrant, searched a bunch of his stuff, and then said that he had emails, communications with these people, and so on. And so that was background on David Pecker. Now, he was ultimately sued by Karen McDougal, who we're going to learn more about here in a minute, and she's the woman with that separate claim. And then he was also subpoenaed by the feds, right? The federal government, the Southern District of New York, talked about this in part 1 with Jeffrey Berman. They also investigated Trump, and so he went, they spoke to him, hey, what was going on here? Because they were saying that these were basically campaign contributions that were illegitimate, that they were, Trump was getting a benefit in having these stories buried, and there was money being exchanged over the amount of what a benefit is that somebody could provide by making stories go away. So this guy was subpoenaed by the feds, and this is just a quick shot of what the National Enquirer looks like. This is an actual cover story. Inside Trump's nuclear showdown, under siege with IBMs aimed at America, right? And there's pictures of Trump and David Pecker standing there, kind of, hey, we're chummy together, and so on. And so he might be a witness, right? We don't know. They might bring him in, not necessarily because these charges relate to anything in the indictment, but because they might show a scheme, a conspiracy, a pattern of conduct here, and that Trump was in a pattern of trying to go, essentially buy and cover up these stories and make them go away. Now, the other counterpart to this whole saga is this woman. This is Karen McDougal. Her background, 1997, was December Playmate of the Month. So some time ago, she was on magazine covers. Now, there was allegedly a 9-month affair with Trump from 2006 to 2007 while she was married with Melania. Trump was married with Melania during that time. She said 9 months, and she wrote about it in some memoirs. And so what ended up happening was AMI, David Pecker, the guy we just heard from, and the National Enquirer, they paid her $150,000 for rights to that story. And this was all happening right around the election. Everybody pops up with their stories. So AMI says, hey, we'll pay you for that, for the rights to the story. And then it kind of went away from there. I mean, she did interviews and stuff like that, but it didn't metamorphosize into something like Stormy did. The main allegation, as we talked about, they funded a catch and kill operation. And then here is just the top portion of the Playboy Playmate of the Year. Next, Madeleine Westerhout. Now, how a lot of people are saying that she might be the gatekeeper for Trump, right? For a long time, 2017 to 2019, she was the personal secretary to the former president. And at the time, he was the president. So she was there, right? Kind of just keeping people at arm's length from him him for a while, and she has a little bit of a tragic outcome, but they reconcile. But from February to August of 2019, she gets a promotion, right? She goes from personal secretary to Trump to director of Oval Office operations from February to August 2019. Something happens. She goes out. She's at, an event, a dinner, something like this. And at dinner, she kind of has a couple things to say about the Trump family, and in particular about Tiffany Trump. And so we'll take a quick look at that. Madeleine is shown the door, but they did reconcile afterwards. And many people are now saying, okay, she was considered Trump's gatekeeper. So is she going to be subpoenaed to come in and testify? And if so, what does she know? And how does that implicate Trump? Because if she is the gatekeeper, she may have been privy to these transactions, right? Trump is sort of notorious for not using technology, right? You've seen photos of his office. They kind of bring him clippings and stuff. They bring him newspapers and filings. And so he's reading stuff kind of in clippings. So he's not texting, he's not emailing, and he signs the checks. And if I recall reading, he likes to review basically every check, but he signs everything. And so people bring them to him. And so the question is, who is getting those before they physically bring them to him? What's the process? And the idea is it's probably this woman. So they're going to say, well, when you generated the check, when you were receiving the invoice, opening the mail, putting it in the spreadsheet ledger, whatever you were doing, put it into QuickBooks, whatever, what was this for? What was the conversation about it? How did it all unfold? So Trump's gatekeeper. Now, here's the background on the firing. So the reason why I talk about the firing is because we're asking, okay, is this woman going to come out? Is she going to be loyal to Trump? Is she going to be a favorable witness? Is she going to be a disfavorable witness? Somebody who is not on the defense side? Well, there was a falling out at some point. Apparently she was fired. And so how'd it go? Well, here's the story. Come on. We've all said something a little bit loosey-goosey sometime, somewhere. August 30th, 2019, there were some comments from Madeleine, and she said the following. She left her White House job suddenly back in 2019. You see August. Suddenly on Thursday, as President Trump's personal assistant, right? Everybody goes, uh-oh, why is his personal assistant running out of here? Was fired after bragging to reporters that she had a better relationship with Trump than his own daughters did, Ivanka and Tiffany, and that the president did not like being in pictures with Tiffany because Trump perceived her as overweight and a little too heavy for him, Well, it's an interesting article. If you read the full article, turns out, a little too much to drink that night. People get a little bit inebriated, start popping off at the mouth. We've all been there. But Trump, the gentleman that he is, he understood this. No big problem at all. I mean, we can't obviously have you around doing that, so we have to split. But Trump said, look, yeah, we love Madeleine. Okay, we still love her. No big deal. He says, while Madeleine has a fully enforceable confidentiality agreement, she's a very good person, okay? And I don't think there would ever be a reason to use it, okay? She called me yesterday to apologize and had a bad night, okay? We've all had a bad night, You wake up in the middle of the night, you're like, I can't believe I said that. Yeah, I can't believe it. Anyone else have one of those? Or a couple? So had a bad night. No big deal. I understand. I fully understood and I forgave her. It happens. I love Tiffany. Doing great. She's not that fat at all, okay? We'll take a picture sometime soon. Okay, so that's her, right? Question is, where is she going to fall if she does get called in as a witness in the trial? Time will tell. Next, we have Hope Hicks. Hope Hicks, you may remember, she was very involved in the 2016 campaign. From 2015 to 2016, she was Trump's campaign secretary for a bit, and then she went to become the White House communications director. Now, this was just for a brief period of time. From 2018 to 2020, she went over to Fox News. She was the chief comms officer over there. And then in February of 2020, she became an aide to Jared Kushner. Okay, so she's at the White House. She leaves for about 2 years, goes and kills it over at Fox, comes back, becomes an aide to Jared Kushner, and then she's back in the White House. Now, that's COVID season, right? Like COVID's just flashing back up. And so the story is, we can't confirm this or not, but the story is she probably gave Trump the COVID, right? She was traveling around with him. She was kind of the first one. Remember when we were all being ridiculous? We were like, let's backtrace it to the origin source human. Remember whatever that was? Where'd it come from? Probably Hope Hicks infecting our president. Thanks, Hope. Kind of worked out. He survived. Remember he came out breathing. Let's go, America. It was already rigged beyond control at that moment. So we got questions about this because she was very involved in this. Now, call logs apparently have her implicated in this. Some call logs show communications with Michael Cohen, right, around the time all these transactions took place. So is she going to be called? If so, what do those communications look like? And these are questions that really apply to all these witnesses we've talked about thus far. Did she know about the Cohen payments? What did she know about them? Because Cohen was saying these were his payments. These were personal payments. Trump knew nothing about them before he got flipped by the Democrats. And so we'll go through that. But did she know? What did she know? Same question goes to everybody, right? Because these are about falsifying business records. All right, well, what did they know? And how did they falsify them? All right, so she's involved. Was she involved in the discussions? And do Michael Cohen's search warrants, they went and they raided his place, they got a bunch of documents. Do they implicate her? Do they corroborate each other? Do they not corroborate each other? Right, what's the backstory? So that is Hope Hicks. And those are some of the ancillary witnesses who will probably be pretty key witnesses for explaining the chain of custody, where the checks came from and how they all, ordinarily come through. Explanatory witnesses. So it'll be curious to see. Those are the other minor witnesses. Now, the star of the Bragg prosecution is going to be Michael Cohen. And it's curious that he's going to be the star of this prosecution, given the fact that he is a convicted felon and has already been found guilty of lying to Congress. So they bring a liar back into court. And this is after he's already been accused of lying again not long ago when he was the star witness in the Letitia James prosecution, which resulted in nearly $500 million in an order against Donald Trump. So who is Michael Cohen? We know a lot about him. We've seen him around here before. He is former Trump attorney. He is somebody who in February of 2018 said to the New York Times that this payment to Stormy was used from his personal money. So we were going to recap basically why this should never have been brought and why this witness is terrible and why Alvin Bragg is manufacturing a prosecution, why it's not legitimate. So this is Cohen. In 2018, he said he used his personal money. He also then suddenly something weird happened. In February and in January, Stormy supported him, and Stormy said, yeah, no, I didn't, have anything to do with Trump, no affair, leave me alone. But something happened, okay? August 2018, he flips. Suddenly, the feds get a hold of him. Trump's the president, but, it's still the DOJ. They are who they are, and they were the ones going after Trump the entire time he was president. So then he pleads guilty to tax fraud, bank fraud, campaign finance violations, and he totally flips. He says, yeah, I did manipulate these monies, and I did it on behalf of a campaign, of a person running for president, person in a political campaign. Okay, then he turns around and pleads guilty again. Now, this is a curious one. 2018, right? We have to go all the way back to this. He was pleaded guilty to lying to Congress for this Trump-Moscow debacle. Now, this is curious. We'll talk about this, break that down as well. So this guy's got 2 guilty pleas, and one of them is for lying to Congress. I have a little bit of a clip on that one as well. He was sentenced to 3 years prison. I don't know how much time he did on that exactly. February 2019, he was disbarred in New York. He was Letitia James's star witness, literally, like the case I don't think could have happened without him. And now he's Bragg's star witness. And we'll recall that he was alleged by a federal judge. Okay, a federal judge came out and said he lied again in court from his testimony, and he's still going to be brought out to testify. It's insane. So who is Michael Cohen? And we go all the way back to this original statement. What happened in February 2018, and I think should eliminate this case. If you have a reasonable prosecutor, right, they would say, okay, obviously this is not going anywhere. Cohen comes out February 13th, Maggie Haberman, you've heard her name. February 2018, Michael Cohen comes out, New York Times, he says, Cohen's lawyer says he paid Stormy Daniels out of his own pocket. Trump's longtime personal lawyer, years ago, said on Tuesday, yeah, he paid the 130 grand out of his own pocket to Stormy, who once had claimed to have an affair with Trump. Now, in the most detailed explanation of the payment yet, Cohen, who worked as counsel for Trump for more than a decade, said he was not reimbursed by Trump, not reimbursed by the campaign. Neither the Trump org nor the Trump campaign was a party to the transaction with Ms. Clifford, and neither reimbursed me for the payment, either directly or indirectly. Now, you'll say, okay, well, what are the checks for? What are all those? Well, it's Cohen. He's doing a bunch of stuff, right? He's doing a bunch of stuff for Trump, handling a bunch of stuff. So Trump is just dumping money to him. Now, Cohen said in a statement to the Times, now the payment to Ms. Clifford, this is Cohen speaking, was lawful, and he's Trump's lawyer, and was not a campaign contribution or a campaign expenditure by anyone. Now, he declined to answer several follow-up questions, including whether Trump had been made aware that Cohen made the payment, why he made the payment, whether he had made similar payments to other people over the years, and so on. But that's his statement, right? So then suddenly he has to reverse himself. So that's 2018. We know just a bit later, he ultimately then is now pleading guilty. Okay, so the DOJ gets a hold of him. They say, oh, no, buddy, we're going after Trump. So they start indicting him. So they say, oh, okay, so if Trump's not guilty, guess what? You're guilty. guilty. And the DOJ is corrupt. So, let's be fair to Michael Cohen here. He is getting, hatchet job by the DOJ. They're charging him with all these crimes. Oh, you're going to protect Trump? How about this? How about we prosecute you? And then this happens all the time in America. If you comply with us, if you agree to this plea deal, guess what we'll do? We will not send you to prison for the rest of your life. You can go to prison for 3 years and agree to these charges and agree to help us against Trump, or you're looking at 20 years, dude. Wait a minute. So you're saying you want 34 felonies that are campaign finance violations for every one of those bills? All right. They hit him with every one. Bop, 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 bop. You better do this or else. He goes, are you kidding me? Yes, sir. No, sir. You tell me what to say. And so he takes the plea deal, right? This is the back room. This is happening all behind closed doors. Boom. Michael Cohen comes out. He says, holy crap. I didn't know I can go to prison for 150 years. He says, no problem. I'll take a plea deal. I'll say whatever the hell you want. Michael Cohen pleads guilty, Manhattan federal court, to 8 counts, including criminal tax evasion. All of this was for unreported income, blah, blah, blah. It's the Stormy Daniels and the Karen McDougal money. We'll get to Stormy in a minute. So he flips. So then now this goes all the way back. So this was a plea deal that came after the fact in 2018, November 29th. And this is the one that he is lying to Congress. Okay. This is the perjury charge that we reference. He's false testimony to Congress. And you might be thinking that the false testimony that he gave to Congress was to be adverse to Trump, right? Like he is harming Trump. He goes to Congress, he lies about Trump. No, they're mad that he didn't implicate Trump enough. And so they charged him with the crime for not hitting Trump hard enough. And then he pled guilty to that. So what am I talking about? Well, here is from his plea documents. Here is what they're charging. They say on or about August 28th. So again, before Cohen flips. So back before 2018, he's still saying, I took care of all this. In August 2017, before that, Cohen, this is the charge, he caused a 2-page letter to be sent on his behalf, Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, right? The 2 intelligence groups. So the letter addressed his efforts at the company by Cohen to pursue a branded property in Moscow. So Cohen says, hey, I've got some information on Moscow. Remember, Trump wins in January. He takes office 2017. Democrats are crying foul about Russia because they're just whacked out. They made up the whole Russia scandal, right? So they're searching Trump, Russia, everything. So Cohen sends a letter into the select committees saying, okay, here's what I know about Russia. Cohen stated for the purpose of the letter that it was to provide the committee with additional information regarding the proposal and referring to the Moscow project, right? This is the Trump Tower in Moscow. Now, in the letter to the select committees, Cohen knowingly and deliberately made the false representations. It hit you with nonsense because Cohen wrote in the letter, they said, well, what's going on with Trump, Russia? So he sends a letter in 2017. He's still on Team Trump. He says, well, the project ended in January 2016 and it was not discussed extensively with others in the company. So Cohen says, like, Trump, Russia wasn't even that big of a deal. He sends a letter. Cohen told us in Congress, they said, Cohen never agreed to travel to Russia in connection with the Moscow project and never considered, right? He told us this, that he never considered talking to individual 1, which is probably Trump, for the project, right? So Cohen wrote, I primarily communicated with Moscow-based development company. So Cohen puts this in there. And then 3, Cohen did not recall any government response to or contact about Moscow. So Cohen says, well, I don't remember anything about them. And they say, you're a liar, Michael. And they charge him through, right? They charge him with this. And they say the proposal was discussed extensively in the company, Michael. So Trump there was Russia all over the place. It's like legitimate business stuff, but they're like, that's what you get for telling us something. And so they hit Cohen with new crimes because he didn't come down on Trump enough. And he just pleads guilty to it all. So apparently there was government response from Russia at some point. Cohen wasn't clear enough. Boom, crime. So it's like, don't talk to the government or the feds or anybody because everything you say, they'll twist into a pretzel. So, you might have a little bit of empathy for Cohen. I mean, not really, I guess. I retract that. But this is a position that the DOJ can cause anybody to be in. And you get very curious about how you react in a situation like this. When the DOJ comes to you and they say, you're going to go to prison for 50 years and probably get it. Look at the J6ers, okay? What do? Michael Cohen just says, okay, I guess I'm just going to buckle like crazy and I got to go hit Trump harder. So the letter that he sent to them was now criminalized. He takes a plea deal and it is, considered perjury. So now he's lying in reverse, right? So now he just flips and now everything he's saying is adverse to Trump, even though it wasn't before these charges came. So it's pretty disgusting. So then in 2019, right after he takes these plea deals, now watch what he comes out and says. Quick 30-second clip from Cohen. This is in 2019, February. Suddenly he's flipped. Now he says, oh, Trump knew everything about Russia.
You need to know that Mr. Trump's personal lawyers reviewed and edited my statement to Congress about the timing of the Moscow Moscow Tower negotiations before I gave it. So to be clear, Mr. Trump knew of and directed the Trump-Moscow negotiations throughout the campaign and lied about it. He lied about it because he never expected to win.
All right, so they brought him back out. That was 2019, and he tried to deliver his, Trump rah-rah speech. Now, Michael Cohen, the reason why I said you might have some empathy for the guy is because, he's probably not that bright, first of all. And number two, the DOJ is corrupt, like through and through, against everybody, right? So it's Cohen, doesn't really matter. They just go after whoever they need to make a point. And in this case, the DOJ was going after, on behalf of the Democrats, somebody who was not hitting Trump enough until they could corroborate him to get him to flip and go, anti-Trump. Then he did. Now, his whole life has now become about living this lie, which is up to him, right? He doesn't have a podcast every day, ranting through his screen at everybody. But he also lied again, right? He keeps lying. Like, he lies repeatedly. And even when he's lying under oath to Congress, he lies again about lying under oath to Congress. So we have questions about this. Like, when you plead guilty, you can't plead guilty to something you didn't do, right? This is the problem. And here's the situation now, right? It reverses all the way back to Cohen. Like, Cohen keeps burying himself. So let's break this down. This is from Michael Cohen's plea proceeding. This is from the case that he pleaded guilty in. This was in his own criminal case where he's trying to terminate probation early. Judge Jesse Furman is a federal judge. And here's what he said about Cohen. Cohen did not plead guilty, according to him, to tax evasion, right? So that first set of charges that Cohen says he pleaded guilty to, Cohen has said, I didn't do those things, right? So, okay, but you went into a judge, he said, under oath, did you? And it's a long process to take a guilty plea. You don't walk in and say, judge says, hey, Michael, you guilty? He's like, yeah, I think so. And then they just call it a day. Did your attorney explain this to you? Anybody promise you anything, right? Are you awake right now? Like, are you under drugs and influence? Anybody promise you anything not contained in this document? All the things. And you did this, right? And there's a factual basis for this. And all this stuff happened. Is that true? Yes. Are you satisfied with the services of your attorney? Yes. Okay, great. Because the last thing you want is a defendant to say, that's not true. I didn't do any of that. Where'd that come from? So they go through it in depth. Now, so the question was, because he came out in the Letitia James trial and he said, I am not guilty of tax evasion. I didn't do it. And the question was, okay, well then why'd you take a guilty plea? And the answer is probably because the DOJ was threatening him with 50 years in prison, right? Because they needed him to flip, but he can't say that. So he's really kind of stuck. Right now he has to say, I had to lie about Trump because the DOJ was pressuring me, right? He can't admit that now. So now he's caught in a lie because the origin is a lie about Trump. So he says, but I'm not guilty of tax evasion. Why'd you plead guilty? He says, well, I lied to Judge Pauley. Here's the exchange. Question to Michael Cohen. He's on the stand. Alina Abba, I believe, was doing the questioning. Says, hey, Cohen, did you lie to Judge Pauley when you said that you were guilty of counts that you said under oath that you were guilty of? Did you lie to Judge Pauley? Michael Cohen says, yes, I did. But you earlier testified that you omitted that you didn't evade taxes. Isn't that right? You didn't evade taxes? I did say that. Right. Okay. So you lied when you said that you evaded taxes to a judge under oath because you have to do that in order to take a guilty plea. So is it your honor about this date, this location, you, Michael Cohen, your blah, blah, elements of evading taxes, right? You agree with that? Yes, I do. Or it's in writing. So is that correct? Yes, that's correct. I lied to a judge. And in response to those questions from Judge Pauley, you lied to him, right? That's the question. Michael Cohen says that's true. All from the transcripts. This is a federal judge citing this, saying, so that's 3 confirmations that Michael Cohen lied, and he's caught in it. So, sir, back during the testimony, turns out you lied at the time. You lied more than once in federal court. Is that correct? Correct. And when the stakes affected you personally, you lied, right? Correct. And you misled a federal judge? Michael Cohen says, yes, I did. Because he has to do all this stuff. He's like, I didn't do tax evasion. It's like, well, I have to say that I did because they are making me. And if I don't, I'm going to go to prison for a long time. They're just going to indict me. So they use him to manufacture something that is to their ends, right? This is what they do. So then he flips. Now, here's what the judge says, wrapping this up, says the testimony from this exchange. Now, that was in Letitia's trial, that exchange, just to put the emphasis on this. He took the stand like months ago and came out and said he lied to a federal judge under oath in another proceeding and then admitted that on the record in Tish's case. And Engeron said he was credible. The judge in that case said he was credible. So then the question is, in this case, now the judge here, considering his termination of probation, says the testimony is more troubling than anything else Cohen has ever said. It gives rise to 2 possibilities. One has to be true. This is a federal judge writing. It gives the rise to 2 possibilities. possibilities. One, Cohen committed perjury when he pleaded guilty before Judge Pauley in the original sentencing or the original change of plea, lied, right, committed a crime. Or two, Cohen committed perjury in his October 2023 testimony. Now, either way, it is perverse to cite the testimony as Schwartz did, as he is somehow committed to upholding the law, right? The guy is breaking the law again. And it's probably because the DOJ is, he is their person now. We need you to go say all of this stuff, and he can't keep his lies straight. So what has Alvin Bragg done about this? What has the DA in Manhattan done? Of course, the chief law enforcement person for that county. What are they doing? Are they prosecuting him? No. Instead, they went and got Alan Weisselberg, Trump's CFO, also charged with perjury for something that's not even consequential, but they let his perjury escape, and he just committed it in Engeron's courtroom, like around the corner. So Bragg, rather than investigating this, prosecutes someone else. So both sides now have a perjurer. So when Trump calls Weisselberg, they're going to say, oh, you're a perjurer. And we're going to say, well, you got a perjurer. And they say, well, I guess it's even Stevens. So get rid of both of them. That's an attack, right, to take out Weisselberg. And Bragg is going to put this guy on the stand because he's the key witness. He's the crux, the keystone of who connects all the dots on the payments. So that's Michael Cohen, key witness to the Bragg prosecution. Stormy Daniels, another critical witness for Alvin Bragg. She has a serious background, as we can see here. Stormy Daniels, you know what she does for a living, will be probably testifying in this case. And if you're not familiar with her resume, allow us to briefly review. She has been in this game for a long time. Okay, started when she was 17 years old. And what we're going to go through in these next few slides here is a journey about her really kind of seeking the public limelight, kind of being interested in politics, starting in this profession, being very enamored, I believe, by the limelight, the publicity. Starts at 17, kind of shoots to prominence, and then needs to make a change, tries to shift into politics before Trump even ever comes on the scene, runs for office, actually, and then suddenly, when she's fading into irrelevance, decides that she's going to bring up this new scandal right in the middle of 2016. And so we'll go down that journey together today. So she began taking her clothes off for money when she was 17, went and had a lot of success, okay? Had a lot of success in this role. Now, look at all these different sort of appearances that she had that are notable, I guess. She was in this film. We'll leave the title out of all these. 2004, 2017, she was on a TV show, I guess, called Dirt. She played a role in that. She appeared on Maroon 5's music video, okay? She was a pole dancer in that one. She appeared in The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and Steve Carell is watching her. She's also in another film in 2007 as a model in Knocked Up. She appeared on Saturday Night Live in 2018 after, Trump came onto the stage, and she appeared as a model in another series where she portrayed the Virgin Mary-like degenerate. So that's her background. Now, what you see, right, is somebody who's kind of constantly front and center in the media, and she likes it there. In fact, in 2008, she was really kind of getting involved in politics. Isn't this curious? So this was from the press club in Washington, National Press Club, and this was from an event where they were talking about protecting children online, restricted to adults. And 2008, the internet's getting a little carried away there. Stormy Daniels is churning out content. Like, I don't want the youth of America to see that. All right. But you can see, right? Speaking out, seeking that public attention, trying to get involved in political issues. And what did that lead to? She actually ran for office. Here's a story that's over from the Times-Picayune. Chris Rose wrote this. You can see this one's back in 2009. No one's even thinking about Trump. She says, a po' boy shop serves up Stormy for lunch. You're not going to want to eat there, okay? Just avoid. 1 star, not good. Now, the sign on the door to Sergio's said, storm warning at noon. It was the official notice that business would not be quite as usual. And that's because Stormy Daniels was on a listening tour in 2009. Her words, not mine. She's running around listening to everybody. How can I help you? Now, Daniels is not your run-of-the-mill politician. She's no mouthpiece in a suit. No, she's on the adult business. But don't take Stormy for a dumb blonde. Come on. Draft Stormy points out that she could not only perform in her films, but she also writes her films. And she directs them too. Complicated, multiple angles. She was also, it should be noted, the president of her 4-H club in high school in Baton Rouge. So elect me to Congress. She's as good as anyone in Congress, I guess. Now, she gets involved in Donald Trump, okay? No one knows who she is, totally irrelevant. Suddenly, she's involved in this Trump affair. Everyone's asking questions. She ultimately releases this story. But then she came out January 30th, 2018. And she actually published this, and my understanding is she did this with Michael Cohen, and this is legitimate, right? She actually signed this. The AP confirms that for us here on the next slide. January 30th, here's what she says, right, about Donald Trump. So all that background, she comes out, there's this settlement, they float this around, hey, there's this relationship, blah, blah, blah. Now, January, just before Michael Cohen comes out and also says that he made the payments with his personal money before that happened, Stormy releases this. Over the past few weeks, I've been asked many countless times to comment on reports of an alleged relationship I had with Trump many years ago. Fact of the matter is that each party to this alleged affair denied its existence in 2006, 2011, 2016, 2017, and now again in 2018. All good points. I am not denying this affair because I was paid, quote, hush money, as has been reported overseas and overseas owned tabloids. I am denying this affair because it never happened. Thanks. I will have no further comment on this matter. Yeah, right. She released documentaries this year. Please feel free to check me out on Instagram at the Stormy Daniels. Don't do it. So that's from her. Now, then she recanted all of this. So something changed. Trump called this out, and we know the AP looked into this again. Trump posted this one. Hey, look what I found. Are they going to report on this? And they say, well, it's kind of true. AP posted this in March last year. Says a newly released document shows Stormy Daniels admitting she never had an affair with Trump. What's the AP say about it? Well, it's just missing context, okay? The signed statement with the denial was publicly released on January 30th. That's true. That is accurate. Not long after, Daniels recanted the statement. Oh, yeah. And said that the affair did occur. She said her denials were due to the non-disclosure agreement, and because the parties involved made it sound like I had no choice but to write that. Okay. Now, the facts, a grand jury, of course, indicted Trump nonetheless. And so between that statement, between Michael Cohen's statement, between even the facts of Stormy's statement themselves, right? 2006, she was repeatedly denying it. All of a sudden, something changes. What is it? Opportunity. We know. And Stormy has been somebody who's still been, largely living that lifestyle up until relatively recently. Remember this, when Stormy got arrested? This story was also pretty wild. Now, this was something she posted in 2018. She says, I'll be going on stage tonight at Sirens in Columbus to perform for my fans and register voters as planned. All right, going out there to get involved. And she's gonna, get people energized, I guess. Can't stop the storm. And then she puts that emoji up there for some reason. Says, storm the vote, Team Stormy, Basta, fearless, right? And that was the same hashtag that Michael Avenatti was splaying all over the place. So remember, Stormy Daniels was arrested. Now, what ended up happening is pretty interesting. And the officers who were involved actually got reprimanded. Stormy Daniels got paid about 450 grand, give or take, depending on the settlement. And it was an interesting thing. Here is what the Washington Post reported on Stormy Daniels' arrest. They said prosecutors have ultimately dismissed the charges against her because she was accused of fondling patrons. This is in 2018. Police had charged Daniels, whose real name is Clifford, with 3 misdemeanors because of touching at a sexually oriented business in violation of Ohio law. Now, there's a technicality that she gets off on here in a minute. Says here, authorities accused her of touching a specified anatomical area of individuals who were present at the performance, including police officers. Okay, this is where it gets really problematic. When cops go into locations like this, and maybe have too much of a good time. Daniel's lawyer, Michael Avenatti, said on Thursday morning that there was a sting operation that had been set up. But Thursday afternoon, Stormy came out and announced that there were not going to be any charges. Here's her mugshot. According to a police report, they have this group called Vice Officers, okay, which was later disbanded. So a bunch of Vice Officers. Wonder what those guys are, During Daniel's 11:30 performance, the report states people in the audience began throwing dollar bills at Daniels. While topless and wearing G-string, she allegedly began forcing the faces of patrons into her chest and using her bare angerons to smack the patrons right in the face. She was accused of fondling the breasts of women in the audience as well. Now, 2 police detectives and an officer in the club noticed what Daniels was doing, and they approached the stage. They're like, oh, that looks fun. Hey, what's going on over here? Oh, no! Stormy Daniels leaned over, grabbed the detective's head, and began smacking her face with her bare breasts, baby. Just walloping her her in the face. That detective right in the face, like, no, this is illegal. Stop. She allegedly performed the same acts on a male detective and a third officer too. Those guys were like, that's illegal. Let me go see if you're going to break the law for me too. They're like, here, illegal me. Here, break the law for me too. They're like, no, stop it. No, this is so bad. And she's just having a great time. And then they began fondling that officer's buttocks and breasts as well. Oh my gosh, it's just a scene over there, isn't it? Golly, Stormy's just popping everybody off, just swinging them around like helicopters. Now, another police detective who was standing near the bar saw it all happen. He's like, wow. He's like, officers. According to the police report, that detective then left the club. He's like, okay, I got to calm this thing down. Okay, I got 3 officers who are all engaging with Stormy. Someone help. She's got them all under her control. And so they all came in, they arrested the cops. Now, Daniel said on Thursday that she was saddened to hear that the charges for the others had not been dismissed. And what ended up happening is she sued him. So what happened was there was a sting operation, but they let it go. And Stormy's case was dismissed because the law was for local dancers. Apparently, it didn't apply to outside dancers. And so they ultimately dismissed the case against her, and she sued him, and she won a bunch of money. And so it's just a wild story, man. So she ends up suing him. CNN reported settlement came after a year after that and got a $450,000 settlement from, I think, the city. All charges were dropped just 12 hours later. The state's no touching law did not apply to Daniels because she was not a regular performer. The law states that any employee who regularly appears nude regularly is prohibited from touching patrons, except from your family members, which is weird. It's like, why would your brother be there? Chief Tom made this decision because these officers, so those officers also got reprimanded, by the way. So those officers violated the rules of conduct, okay? The police rules say you can't get motorboated at a strip club, okay? It's not allowed. Police said in a news release, they didn't specify the violations. It's Section B. Don't get motorboated. Subsection double D. All members of the now disbanded vice section, okay? You don't need a vice section. So a bunch of officer bros can go in and just get motorboated. We're investigating crimes here. Yeah, another round though. Make it fast before I arrest you. All right, so that's Stormy. Now, it's a good thing she got some of that money because she owes a lot of it to Trump, a lot of it. And here is some more background. So she also sued Trump for defamation, and Michael Avenatti, who we'll talk about in a minute, Michael Avenatti was one of her lawyers. She actually had several lawyers, but Stormy sued Trump, lost multiple times, almost tried the E. Jean Carroll type of attack with Roberta Kaplan. And here's the story from CNN. They reported that Stormy was ordered to pay Trump now, right? A bunch of money, $120,000. That's in addition to another $500,000. Okay, so that $450,000 she got after she was fondling police officers, which what a country, right? All right, so $500,000. It's like, oh my gosh. So she's got to give that over to Trump, and another $120,000 in legal fees as well. The U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals sided with Trump. This was a big hit to her, and the reason this I think is important is because this shows her absolute bias towards Trump, right? This woman owes Trump, give or take, $620,000 against Trump. $500,000 right here, plus the $120,000. That's a lot, right? And she is not going to want to pay that to him. In fact, she has said this: I will go to jail before I even pay a single penny. Okay, I will go to jail before I pay a penny. So what does that mean in terms of incentives? Does she have an incentive to stop Trump? Yeah, of course she does. Does she have an incentive to see him lose or be hurt because she doesn't want to pay? Maybe she doesn't have to pay if he goes to jail, right? Because he's in prison for the next 50 years, whatever. So we have a very biased person who also, this is someone who is apparently violating a court order openly on X. Sorry, Stormy. Judge said you have to. So she says no. So she's openly, willfully violating a court order. So between Bragg's 2 witnesses, they don't have someone who is honest or abides by court orders, like telling the truth under oath or abiding by your payment obligations. Either one of them. They're star witnesses. And so that is Stormy. Now, Stormy, in order to make some of that money back, has a documentary out, and this is on the Peacock network. It was released in 2024. This documentary was also released just about a week before the original scheduled trial date, which was originally scheduled for March 25th, which is no longer the date. It's been moved to the 15th now, but she tried to time it. And my question is, what other evidence went into this? This is a whole story about the Trump saga that we've seen from the trailer here. So who are the producers? Who are the the script writers? Who wrote a note that said, or an email, or who was there during a brainstorming session or during filming that said, oh, do that again, but make it angrier? Here's the background on this dumb film. She says it's an American documentary produced by somebody called Sarah Gibson, whoever that is, follows Stormy as she navigates being a mother, an artist, an advocate, working hard to reinvent herself. It was like Hunter. She should go talk to Hunter. It had its world premiere on March 8th and was released on March 18th, just a week before the trial was scheduled to start. Weird. Stormy Daniels navigates being a mother, and look at this, working hard to reinvent herself after the Trump-Stormy Daniels scandal. And they met while working on a project. Yeah, I'm sure it's just terrible. Aaron Lee Carr is a producer. Judd Apatow, executive producer. All right. So now that's Stormy. So she's got a lot of incentive to exaggerate the story to get more money to pay Trump back and to get more people to watch her film to get more money. So can Trump see any of this discovery? Can he peer inside and see what's actually going on? He has asked NBC and Judge Merchan for a subpoena. They have denied it. Remember this one. This was a decision in order on NBC's motion to quash the subpoena, and Merchan said, nope, sorry, Trump, no access. NBC's motion to quash is granted. And he scheduled that, signed that one right before the trial is starting on April 5th. So Trump can't see what went into that and how Stormy is monetizing this entire process, just like the judge's daughter is. Michael Avenatti, you know him. He is in prison. Whether we see him in trial or not is yet to be seen. Time will tell. You remember him. He was a lawyer to Stormy Daniels in 2016 when a lot of this was happening. He sued to invalidate an NDA with Trump, sued Trump for defamation with Stormy, lost that one big time. They owe Trump money on that. Currently serving 19 years. And I didn't realize it was so long. I thought it was actually less time than that. But 19 years, I think starting 2022, give or take. He'll be out in less time than that, obviously. But extortion with Nike for millions, embezzlement from clients, and apparently even stole from Stormy Daniels in a book deal, a couple $100,000 from her too. So take that for what it's worth in terms of his credibility. But he knows Stormy well, and he called in and talked about the Bragg prosecution being the wrong case at the wrong time. And here was just a quick segment from that.
19. One of the big things that I learned, unfortunately, is that what I had been sold by Ms. Daniels relating to how this payment had came about and what I had subsequently advocated on television and others in reliance on what she had told me turned out to be completely false. It had been represented to me that she had not attempted to extort Donald Trump and the campaign in the waning days of 2016, that they had come to her. And I believed her when she told me that repeatedly. Unfortunately, in early 2019, I came to learn that that was not true.
Does it matter to the legal case who initiated it if, as you said earlier tonight, Donald Trump still lied about it and potentially lied to the government about it?
I don't think from a legal perspective it matters, but I think very well from an optics standpoint it could matter. And again, I believe he'll be convicted in the case, but I don't think it's going to move the needle to the degree that some people believe that it will. I think
we'll see about that. They're going to try to shift this from the hush money case into an election interference case, as we'll talk about in our next segment. But that is Michael Avenatti calling into the show for an update, and the jury is about to be selected, and we're going to be covering that here. So starting on Monday, April 15th, we're expecting 18 total jurors who will be selected, and it may take a while to get there because of the complexities of this case. Remember, there were about 42 different jury questions that the judge was asking about. Are you a member of the Proud Boys? You watch Fox News? Do you like True Social? What's your story, right? All those questions. And so my understanding is that we are going to have 12 jurors for sure who will be the final jurors on the panel, and we will have up to 6 alternates who will be there in case something happens. And so we'll have a full panel when the trial starts, and we'll see how it unfolds here together. And so we are now much more up to speed on the Bragg prosecution, and we'll be here when this thing kicks off on Monday. Security seemingly is ready to go as well, and they have shared this with us, that U.S. New York PD, U.S. Secret Service, New York Unified Court System, all are ready to go. Secret Service, Police Department, Unified Court System are working together to ensure the utmost level of safety during Trump's criminal proceeding in New York. Secret Service is prepared. We're going to carry out our protective mission. Now, they say while operational security precludes us from going into specifics, Secret Service will not seek any special accommodation of outside what would be required to ensure the continued safety of the former president. We have the utmost trust and confidence in our law enforcement enforcement, we're ready to go. Police commissioner says we're ready to go. Long-standing relationships, no problem. And chief department of the unified court system says we've been coordinating with everybody, and so everything will move smoothly, and we'll see. So Trump is expected to be there, and he'll probably be bogged down there absent some excusal from the court for the remainder of the trial, which is exactly what the Democrats want. And if you recall, we'll have Wednesdays off of trial testimony, I believe. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, it is going to be trial season, my friends. And so we're going to be here continuing to cover it. Thank you so much for subscribing and joining us as we do. Thanks for liking this video. Thanks for inviting a friend or family member to come over and join us. We got a lot to unpack as the trial unfolds, and now we've got our bearings straight. We got some slides. We have an understanding of who is who and how this is all working. And so thank you for joining us, my friends. Don't forget to check out some of the links down in the description below. We have our sovereignty and our self-development community at watcherlodge.com. We do sovereignty Saturdays on Saturday. Click on over in the link to watcherlodge.com and come register and join us all free. We also have our members only community at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where you can become a member, get access to our streams that we do every morning, our Saturday shows as well. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to grab a shirt. We have a new shopping tab, and so we got some Travis Matthew polo shirts in there. Join the polo revolution. Let's save America. Look good doing it together. We'll see you back on Locals at watchingthewatchers.locals.com and back here on the next one.